A pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome back once again to Nerf Secrets Revealed Aftersought Part 2. And so, what we're going to do here is focus a bit more on a certain tangent to the 2.0 line that has been around since 2020. It certainly is nice that Nerf has been able to add newer additions, but I guess one in particular that we got last year probably could have allowed for a certain sub-series within that series to expand even further, because unlike another sub-series that 2.0 had come around, which I have since referred to as Super, since we know that a 2.0 can never truly beat a 1.0, and for any reason, of course, it's just what it is. I intend on renaming only because this kind of takeover of a certain beloved franchise that had been around from 2012 to 2020 does not need to be undermined or overthrown. Anyways though, the wilds that we had gotten, which consists of the Stormcharge, which I have right here for today, as well as two other blasters, a quadfire reskin, which I've simply referred to as the Parsonage, as well as the Trailblazer. 3 blasters, 1 sub-series. I don't quite know why they did not intend on even continuing this series any further, but nonetheless, this one is certainly one of the more modular sides of the series. And being that this is the only flywheel type blaster and modular blaster of the Wilds sub-series of the 2.0 lineup, or Super, depending on what you might feel comfortable with me saying, I'd say this does work in a pretty solid factor. I certainly would actually want to stick with this over something like maybe the Alpha Strike Fossa, which you might remember when I've covered in the first season of Aftersought. It definitely didn't quite meet a lot of expectations that I was hoping for, but this in turn has a unique twist to it. A stock that's detachable, a small little carrying handle that also doubles as a scope, believe it or not, very similar to other blasters like the Stampede ECS. You got yourself a muzzle, which I would probably dub this as the silencer because it does kind of look like one, or suppressor depending on what your terminology is like. And you have yourself an exclusive 10 dart magazine. Exclusive because of the color scheme. This nice sort of bright red, which, try to tell that apart from the current shirt I'm wearing, having matched with the majority of other parts of this blaster, including the front without the barrel attachment, as well as the small muzzle that it connects to. You have the parts of the suppressor, the jam door, the buttons, the triggers, the mag release, and even the Nerf logo, as well as this tactical rail on the side. Coupled with that with the elastic, well, tactical rail on top, and you definitely got yourself a blaster that could be fit for a rookie. I consider this very SMG-like by all occasions. And in terms of the invisible integration mod that I plan on putting together in this test, that's probably going to come into play here. I consider this to be maybe a little on the underwhelming side. It's little more than a simple strife. Well, yeah, that's just what it is. Mag system release, stock adapter and barrel adapter. Considering that this did in fact come with its own accessories, which are little more than modulus ripoffs. I mean, don't tell me we haven't seen this barrel attachment and stock attachment before. I could probably name a few blasters off the top of my head, because I know the modulus line had this type of barrel, and I know at least a couple of other blasters that had this exact type of stock, design and all, minus the color scheme of course. But in terms of the color scheme, apart from the red that I've mentioned earlier, I will say that the additions of white for another Nerf logo, I mean, why red and white when you could just have white or red, but still. Then of course the placard, which resembles the name Stormcharge itself. Nice way to reference it for the record. Then of course, the non-painted Nerf logos on the other side, which I still don't get why they choose to have only one side painted and the other side camouflaged with the rest of the color scheme. But like I said, the turquoise, white, red, and dark blue color schemes, it definitely is a unique pattern that we have here. A nice scheme that certainly does give off a wild vibe to it, you know, like a wild night out in Vegas. I mean, that's probably one thing that would generally come to mind in this instance. Of course, this blaster is nice and smooth in terms of its performance. Trigger feel is impressive. Handle is well made for a hand type like mine, despite how it might seem a bit small. And in terms of the general profile, it definitely does hold up well to my own stature. So this does give a lot of points to it, making it well within the 7.0 to 8.0 range in terms of my overall scoring. Yet one thing still does remain: the invisible integration test. So I'm gonna take a few of these here, and just like that, we are ready to go. So, like I said, the SMG-like facade that we have here, I expect that to come into play right about now. Well, you know what? This actually is a little more powerful than I imagined. I mean, 10 darts kind of translated to a few dozen bullets. From a real firearm, that is. And that is generally the appeal that people tend to get. Me turning regular toys into murdering machines. And well, it's all for a good cause. But overall, my take on this blaster, it's a great piece. But I really don't get why Nerf would not want to continue this series. In the same regard that they've been able to continue the main series, why not give more to the Wilds? They could even have more original designs for this. Because this does almost look like that, you could get something that's a little more on the original side. I mean, the main blaster itself, without the attachments, does kind of have a certain design to it that we've never really seen before. But there's a lot of cues on it that are reminiscent of other blasters. I mean, foregrip. There's a few blasters I can name that are like this. This sort of tactical rail and scope configuration. Like I said, Stampede ECS is another blaster that tends to have this sort of feature. Then the stock and barrel are little more than just carbon cutouts of older barrel styles and stock styles, just repainted to fit the color scheme of this blaster. Then a 10 dart clip. Several blasters I know had clips that had 10 dart capacities in them. And of course, with this being a strife-like blaster overall, again, you don't get that much originality out of it. But I do love this paint scheme. I do love what they went on to give for this final blaster in the series. I do like the very smooth performance, and the invisible integration really chalked it up. So Stormcharger is gonna get a good, generous scoring of 9.6 out of 10.1. Yeah, very generous. Because this definitely is a great blaster that I am basically able to handle here. I almost don't want to put it down for that reason, but excuse us. My overall take on this blaster, definitely get a hold of it if you can. And well, final verdict aside, I hope you've enjoyed these episodes that I've offered so far, and I certainly will have more of these to come within the coming months. I do plan on making maybe no more than what I did with Season 1 of Aftersought, but I sure do hope that going forward, we can definitely make a lot more material worth viewing. So I will see you guys again in Nerf Secrets Revealed Aftersought, and make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me wherever you can find me, and stay on the Hollywood side for more.